Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. North Korea on Wednesday morning launched a ballistic missile into the East Sea that apparently ended in failure, South Korea's military says. The regime also flew yet another round of waste-carrying balloons for a second straight night on Tuesday. CCTV footage from the lithium battery plant where a blaze killed 23 people on Monday shows it took just around 40 seconds for smoke to swallow up the facility. Police have charged the head of the plant and 4 others in relation to the accident. South Korea's birth figure saw a slight on-year increase in April, but with the figure being too small and due to an increase in the number of deaths, the country's overall population saw another decline. North Korea fired a ballistic missile toward the East Sea this morning, which apparently failed. Wednesday's launch also came hours after the regime sent more trash-carrying balloons to the south late Tuesday. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea on Wednesday morning launched a ballistic missile that appears to have failed. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the regime fired a ballistic missile toward the East Sea at around 5:30 a.m. from the Pyongyang area. A military official explained that the North appears to have attempted to test launch a solid-fuel hypersonic missile. However, the military said the launch apparently failed, as the missile reportedly exploded mid-air after traveling some 250 kilometers, likely due to engine problems. This is the regime's first ballistic missile launch in almost a month, and experts say it could be a response to the arrival of the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt in South Korea. But it could also be an effort by the regime to flaunt military achievement ahead of a key party meeting this month.
North Korea perhaps tried to highlight the success of the reconnaissance satellite, but that failed. So I believe they are continuing to test solid-fuel engines to achieve positive results with regard to solid-fuel medium to long-range ballistic missiles.
The provocation also comes after North Korea sent trash-carrying balloons for the second straight night on Tuesday, which was the 6th time since May 28th. As of Wednesday morning, the regime sent around 250 balloons, of which 100 landed in South Korea, mostly in Seoul and North Gyeonggi-do province. The military has been warning that it is ready to air loudspeaker broadcasts immediately against the North, depending on the regime's actions. Pyongyang is presumed to have launched around 2,000 balloons so far. The latest balloon delivery meant delays of up to 3 hours for dozens of domestic and international flights at Incheon International Airport early Wednesday to prevent the risk of an accident. In 3-way phone talks on Wednesday, top nuclear envoys of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan strongly condemned the launch and agreed to keep a close eye on the possibility of additional provocations by North Korea following its recent summit with Russia. South Korea's envoy also vowed to ensure the public safety from the trash-carrying balloons. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
CCTV footage capturing the moment the fire started at a lithium battery factory south of Seoul on Tuesday shows just how devastating the accident was. 5 officials from the factory have been charged in relation to the blaze that resulted in at least 23 deaths. Kim Jong-seo reports.
In CCTV footage recorded around 10:30 a.m. on Monday, smoke comes out of stack of batteries, startling a worker who was approaching it. Within a minute, more smoke fills the room, prompting other workers to gather and try to stop the fire by moving batteries and bringing a fire extinguisher. The batteries then begin sparking. The police and fire department are conducting an investigation based on the CCTV footage into why the fire started. The fire at a lithium battery factory in Hwaseong, south of Seoul, killed at least 23 people, mostly foreign nationals. According to authorities, 17 were from China and 1 from Laos. 5 were South Koreans. They were mostly working on the second floor of a factory where final product checks and packaging was done. The identification of the victims is expected to take some time due to the extent of the injury sustained, only 3 South Koreans identified so far. The police have charged 5 factory officials, including the owner, and banned them from leaving the country. The owner is also charged with violating the Serious Accidents Punishment Act, which was enacted back in 2021 to prevent serious accidents in workplaces.
I apologize that so many lives have been lost.
According to reports, a senior official at the factory said there had been another fire on the premises involving batteries just last weekend. The fire was put out by workers at the time, but it wasn't reported to the fire department. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And the tragic fire at a battery factory is raising questions about safety at similar facilities and what should be done to prevent any future tragedies. Our Choi Soo-hyung talked to some experts.
Experts all agree that the fire, which broke out at the lithium battery factory in Hwasong, was an unprecedented incident, something the country has never experienced before.
This lithium battery fire differs from past fires because the batteries themselves seem to have generated heat for some reason, reaching nearly 1,000 degrees Celsius and causing nearby flammable materials to also catch fire and spread the blaze.
Given the high number of foreign casualties, the government will strengthen fire safety education for such workers and develop fire extinguishing systems to prevent future incidents.
The Interior Ministry will manage the whole process to develop future preventive measures with 7 other ministries, including the Labor and Science ministries. The government will strengthen fire safety education for foreigners and develop fire extinguishing agents for materials such as lithium batteries to prevent future incidents.
To produce and use lithium batteries safely, Professor Moon said that technology must be developed to prevent them from reaching extreme temperatures close to 1,000 degrees Celsius because of the characteristics of the raw material lithium.
If the separator that distinguishes between the cathode and anode, which are the sources of lithium ions, is robust, heat is not generated. However, for some reason, this separator had some problems that led to explosive heat generation. Research is needed to ensure thorough functionality of this separator, and a system for this must be established.
Another expert pointed out institutional shortcomings in the classification of hazardous materials.
Lithium is classified as hazardous under substance management laws, but lithium batteries are excluded due to their minimal lithium content. Further discussion is needed regarding whether products using hazardous materials should also be classified as hazardous.
He added that the simultaneous loading of 35,000 lithium batteries was the cause of a chain reaction of explosions.
If there is excessive damage accumulation, firefighting becomes challenging and causes further damage. New regulations may be needed to restrict or require separate storage areas for large quantities of these materials to prevent such incidents.
Experts said that this fire is a strong lesson for the introduction of further safety measures, as it was a new type of fire in a specialized field. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
South Korea's birth figures jumped for the first time in 19 months in the month of April. But that jump wasn't enough, leading to yet another population decline. Our Park Bonu has the details.
South Korea's population saw another natural decline in April. Though data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday showed that April's birth figures saw an on-year increase for the first time since September 2022, the population shrank due to an increase in the number of deaths. The number of births in April exceeded 19,000, which was an on-year increase of 2.8% due to the base effect. There were over 28,600 deaths the same month, up 4% compared to the year before, leading to a natural population decline of nearly 10,000. A Statistics Korea official pointed to the number of marriages in April as another area of focus. The figure soared by 24.6% compared to the year before, with just over 18,000 marriages registered in April. That's the highest increase for any April since related data was first compiled in 1981. The official said an extra workday in April for marriages to be registered compared to last year, an increase in marriage support subsidies, as well as the base effect helped boost figures. Divorce figures were also up by around 6% on year, exceeding 7,700. Park Bonu, Arirang News.
After weeks of bipartisan wrangling, the ruling People Power Party and the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea have agreed on a detailed schedule for the remainder of the June extraordinary session. According to the chief deputy floor leaders of the two parties on Wednesday, the two sides decided to convene a plenary session on Thursday to hold a vote to select the 7 remaining Assembly Committee chiefs, as well as a deputy speaker from the PPP. There will be a 3-day Q&A session with government officials from July 2nd to the 4th with different topics each day. Representatives of the two sides will take to the podium in July, following the 22nd National Assembly's opening ceremony on July 5th. Russia and Ukraine each handed back 90 prisoners of war on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the first shipment of ammunition from Czech initiative has arrived in Ukraine, while Kyiv has begun talks to join the European Union. Lee Seung-jae reports.
With the United Arab Emirates working as the intermediary, Russia and Ukraine on Tuesday took part in a prisoner exchange involving 90 prisoners of war each. The swap is one of several periodic prisoner swaps made during the more than 2 years of war, with the latest exchange taking place in May when each country handed over 75 prisoners of war. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said the latest swap is on the path to bringing all detainees home. Meanwhile, the first shipment of ammunition from a Czech initiative arrived in Ukraine on Tuesday. This comes as the EU member has led an effort to buy ammunition with funding coming from NATO allies to help Ukraine in its war with Russia. Officials in Prague said in May that the first 50,000 to 100,000 artillery shells would arrive in Ukraine in June. The Czech government said that over $1.8 billion in payments or firm commitments from 15 donor countries had been made, which would allow for 500,000 artillery rounds for Ukraine by the end of the year. Of the countries that pledged to take part in the Czech-led initiative, only 5 had delivered the promised payments by the end of May. The European Union and Ukraine also began membership talks on Tuesday, a move Russia has long opposed. The EU accession talks began during an intergovernmental conference in Luxembourg, with President Zelensky on his social media page on X saying that his people are realizing their European dream, adding that Ukraine is returning to Europe. However, Tuesday's talks will most likely be just a small step on a long road, as Turkey has been in accession talks for almost 2 decades without a membership. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The Pentagon on Tuesday raised the possibility of North Korean troops being used as a cannon fodder if they were to be sent to fight alongside Russian forces in Ukraine. According to Pentagon spokesperson Pat Ryder, North Korea should consider what it would mean to send troop assistance for Russia in what he called an illegal war against Ukraine. The comments come as a deepened military ties between Pyongyang and Moscow have led to rising speculation that Russia could ask the North to send troops to help its war effort. Ryder also commented on the growing talks of the need for South Korea to consider a nuclear option, saying that Washington's policy of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula has not changed. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has voiced concern over escalating clashes between Israel and the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, emphasizing the need for diplomatic efforts. During a meeting in Washington on Tuesday with his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant, Austin attributed the rising tensions to provocations from Hezbollah, but cautioned against another full-blown war in the Middle East. He also said that the U.S. is seeking diplomatic agreements to ensure that civilians on both sides of the Israel and Lebanon border can return home safely. The London-based air transport rating organization Skytrax has named Korean Air and Asian Airlines in its top 100 airlines for 2024. Voted by more than 21 million customers from around 100 countries, Korean Air was ranked 11th and Asian Airlines 37th in its report released on Monday. Now, Qatar Airways was ranked top. In terms of the cleanest airlines, Asiana ranked 6th and Korean Air 10th. Hong Kong's Cathay Pacific was voted the best in that category. Duty-free shops had long been a must-visit tourist spot for many foreigners coming to South Korea. But these days, more and more tourists are turning to regular shops on the streets instead. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
South Korea has been witnessing a rebound in the number of foreign tourists, recovering to nearly 89% of pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels in the first 3 months of this year. Duty-free shops have traditionally enjoyed the bulk of foreign sales, but that is no longer the case, at least for now.
In the past, large group tour packages might have made a beeline to the city's duty-free shops. But these days, more tourists are choosing regular shops on the street, like this store, to buy the latest must-have items.
CJ Group's health and beauty drugstore Lithium is one of those must-visit destinations for foreign visitors, having seen a significant 263% year-on-year surge in first quarter sales. Shoppers say it is not just a store, but rather a trendy cultural spot with a wide selection of products.
I think the reason is this place, it's a cultural spot for us as a tourists. When we watch videos about Korea and stuff like that, we always see Olive in the city and we want to see it.
And I mainly chose Olive because they have a broader selection of products, and I can test some of the products here. And there's some stuff who can help me out if I wonder something. So that has been very helpful here.
The popular dollar shop chain Daiso is another enjoying a boost in sales, with first quarter overseas card sales and transactions increasing by 76% and 61% respectively. Online fashion platform Bushinsa's Myeongdong store too has seen an increase in the number of foreign customers, with the figure climbing to 45% in May from around 30% in March. Foreigners' changed consumer trends can be seen in department stores as well. According to the data, foreign tourists' top choice for shopping was road shops, followed by department stores. Major ones, Lotte, Shinsegae, and Hyundai all saw at least 50 to 230% increases in foreign sales this year from January to May year-on-year.
Many tourists who come to Korea now come after seeing places on social media, so they visit ordinary shops a lot. Duty-free shops are losing customers because they are not actively promoting themselves on social media, nor do they have many products displayed. It is important for customers to actually see products and choose from a wide selection, and that is why small shops are popular.
Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Digital museums that exhibit a more realistic approach to cultural heritage artifacts are becoming more popular. In order to make such displays possible, there has been a team hard at work collecting and systematically organizing related data. Lee In-jin has the story.
In a storage room at the National Museum of Korea, special equipment is used to take images of artifacts. A 3D scanner takes what is called shape data, creating a digital replica of the artifacts with a margin of error between 3 and 5 millimeters. The detailed precision of the scanner even picks up any scratches on the surface. Over the past 4 years, more than 300 artifacts have been digitally replicated, including the pensive Bodhisattva statue, the Kwangeto the Great Stele, and the Celadon incense burner with open work. Imaging the surface is just the beginning of collecting data towards building a digital cultural heritage platform. There needs to be booklets, brochures, and papers that give information about the artifacts, like where and when they were excavated and other significant information. And all such data needs to be linked. But until now, such information has been published by outside sources, which means each area of preservation, exhibition, education, and management all had different methods of data storage, and there were also incompatibility issues when transferring the data due to the use of internal and external network connections.
Beyond mere data collection, we need a platform that is physically much lighter and a foundation that can preserve quality data so that people can more easily access information on our cultural heritage themselves.
If the data can be standardized and put in the system, there can be many uses for it. Some examples would be the large media wall at the Incheon International Airport that requires high-quality video data, as well as the metaverse that requires both light and fast operation.
In order to make data that is accessible to all, we need both high-quality data as well as simple data that can be used in gaming or VR.
The research team says that the creation of a standardized classification system is 80% complete, but some 2 million artifacts are registered, and that is just in the e-museum. Once the system is complete, They are expecting it to take another 3 years to finish building the database. 이은진, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange pleaded guilty at a U.S. district court in the U.S. territory of Saipan, securing his liberty as a free man after a 14-year-long legal battle. Just a few hours ago, Assange was seen entering the courthouse, accompanied by Australia's ambassador to the U.S. and former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd. Last week, Assange signed a deal with the U.S. government to plead guilty to 1 charge of espionage instead of 18 charges he had originally faced. The deal would allow him to avoid further prison time and will be free to return to his home, Australia. Assange left the UK on Monday after spending 5 years in Belmarsh Maximum Security Prison, where he fought against his extradition to the US. Now to Kenya, where at least 5 protesters have been shot dead by police and a section of the country's parliament set on fire as demonstrations against new tax proposals escalate across the country. Violence broke out on Tuesday in Nairobi as angry protesters stormed through the police lines to break into the parliament, vandalizing the interior and stealing the ceremonial mace before starting fires. According to the Kenya Medical Association, the police then opened fire with live ammunition, killing at least 5 people. Kenyan President William Ruto called the protests an unprecedented attack on democracy and blamed the deaths on organized criminals. Protests have been ongoing for days, with President Ruto aiming to raise $2.7 billion to ease debt costs. China's Chang'e 6 lunar probe returned to Earth on Tuesday afternoon local time, with a re-entry capsule landing in the northern Chinese region of Inner Mongolia. With that, it has become the first lunar expedition to bring back samples from the moon's far side. According to China's state media CCTV, the collected samples will be transported by air to Beijing for analysis. Launched on May 3rd from the Wenchang Satellite Launch Center on the island of Hainan, the probe landed on the moon's South Pole Atkin Basin, an impact crater on the side of the moon that always faces away from the Earth. Chinese President Xi Jinping called the mission a landmark achievement. Britain's King Charles III and Queen Camilla welcomed the Japanese Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako on Tuesday, marking the start of the 3-day state visit with the ceremony on Horse Guards Parade, a carriage procession, and a state banquet. Emperor Naruhito's visit is the first by a Japanese head of state since 1998 and was postponed from 2020 due to the pandemic. After inspecting the Guard of Honor in their traditional scarlet uniforms and black bearskin hats, King Charles and Emperor Naruhito traveled to Buckingham Palace in a gold-edged horse-driven carriage. The visit highlights the ties between the two countries, where Emperor Naruhito aims to deepen military, cultural, and scientific connections. Kim Seon, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. After a refreshing summer day on Tuesday, it's hotter today under bright skies. UV rays will soar to very high to extreme level again to parts of Jeollado and Gyeongsang-do provinces. Be sure to protect your skin from too much exposure to the sun's UV rays. And afternoon temperatures could go up 1 to 3 degrees higher this afternoon, topping out at 30 degrees in most parts of Korea. Meanwhile, Busan and Jeju will see a high of 27 degrees. Meanwhile, a monsoonal front approaches Jeju in the late afternoon today, gradually spreading to the rest of season regions by tomorrow morning. Rain will come down harder tomorrow and Friday, along with thunderstorms. Now, the monsoon season looks set to begin in central regions this weekend, which will put the brakes on the heat, with the heat forecast to get stronger in the capital heading towards the weekend. However, it's forecast to rain throughout next week in central areas. Now, with that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.